Many of you will recognize this scene. 12 smart senior people are sitting around a table. There's a genuinely important problem on the agenda that you all share and that requires more than representation or coordination to address. There are good intentions all round, but after a couple of hours, everyone stops talking, someone writes up the minutes, and nothing really changes. 3 months later, you're back in the same room having a very similar conversation, often with many of the same people. Most leaders I work with have had this experience more times than they care to count. They often assume that the people are the problem. There's just not enough commitment or follow-through or willingness to compromise. But I think there's a bigger issue, which is that meetings are just not a very good format for genuine collaboration. If we want multiple parties with different interests to build shared understanding and a joint position on a shared problem, that implies a goal of active co-creation and problem-solving, not compromise or passive endorsement. Even when agenda items are clearly signposted as for discussion, if a forum looks and feels like every other meeting that week, participants will treat it that way. Invite executives into a room with chairs and a table and an agenda and a scheduled start and end time, and they will do what senior executives do in that context. They will perform meeting like the professionals that they are. Typical public sector executives are boss-level experts at meetings with way more than 10,000 hours under their belts. They'll wait for their turn to speak, they'll provide updates, they'll advocate and protect their positions, and then they'll leave and go to their next meetings. When we misuse meetings in pursuit of collaboration, we see similar patterns repeating. When participants don't know exactly what outcome they're trying to achieve, they default to discussion, often without any meaningful outcomes. We get all talk, but no action, regardless of what appears in the minutes. Then there's false consensus. Everyone appears to agree, but nobody really commits. We nod because the social cost of dissent is too high, or maybe because the costs of reneging are too low. Then we go back to our teams and do what we were always going to do. Silence isn't consent, it's just silence. When agreement is that shallow, relitigation is almost inevitable. Something you thought was settled 3 meetings ago finds its way back onto the table. None of these are character flaws. They're perfectly rational responses to a process that is not fit for purpose. Participants are behaving exactly the way the format invites them to behave. So if you want genuine collaboration to solve shared problems, you need to snap participants out of old habits by breaking the meeting frame. Signal difference as dramatically as you can bear. Give the forum its own name, its own charter, its own format, its own venue. If your forum looks and feels like a meeting, that's what you'll get. Cultivate new norms and shared principles. Maybe bring in an independent facilitator. Definitely build in safe spaces for rough drafts, half-baked ideas, and informal interactions that build trust. These aren't soft extras, they're structural. And show the path ahead. Share a clear outline of how the process will unfold, what each session is for, and how outcomes will be reached. Confidence in the process gives participants the courage to move from their starting positions. Breaking the meeting frame is necessary but not sufficient. You also need to create a new frame for collaborative work before that work begins. We all need to agree on a shared purpose that's not just have a meeting, discuss, or even decide. Define what the meeting is for, what it will produce, and what's out of scope. Sign everyone up to the same objectives, not just the same calendar invitation. Make sure you have the right people in the collaboration. Include all the perspectives that really matter, but be explicit about who's there to provide input and who has the authority to commit to the outcome. Unclear authority or missing voices lead to deals getting made in the room, then vetoed outside it. Agree how the group will agree. Will it be majority rules, escalation, consensus, and if so, how will you confirm that consensus? Document the rules and refer to them often. Many collaborative processes fall apart not because people disagree fundamentally on the issues, but because they never agreed how they would resolve minor disagreements. Collaboration works best when we start from at least some common ground. Aim to establish a shared base of facts and circulate materials well ahead of any forum. Transparency reduces suspicion and increases productivity. None of this is rocket science, but almost none of it happens by default, especially for a cohort made up entirely of 7th Dan meeting black belts. Anything outside of familiar norms can feel almost dangerously subversive. But collaboration can fail even with willing participants if the structure constrains them from working differently. Design the conditions well, and it's surprising how quickly smart people will lean into doing really smart things together rather than taking turns to read talking points to each other.